Well, Democrat Oregon Senator Ron Wyden turning up the heat on Facebook, demanding its CEO Mark Zuckerberg face the consequences of his company's privacy violations, saying this in an interview that's published today. Quote, Mark Zuckerberg has repeatedly lied to the American people about privacy. I think he ought to be held personally accountable, which is everything from financial fines to, and let me underline this, the possibility of a prison term, end quote. Let's bring in Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, TechCrunch just coming out with a new data breach. 419 million records of several databases worldwide have been released. And they said the server on which this database was located was not protected by a password. And furthermore, anybody could have found access to the database. That gives more fuel to the fire of whether or not somebody like Zuckerberg could be held personally liable and go to jail as a result of these releases.
Well, this is gross negligence, which is a very extreme form of negligence. But unfortunately for Senator Wyden, it is not a crime. As he knows, it is not a crime for him to lie, and it's not a crime for Mark Zuckerberg to lie, assuming that neither of them is under oath and assuming neither is certifying something to be true. Right now, the American public is protected by laws that require because of a contractual relationship between Facebook and its customers, require Facebook, when it receives confidential information, to secure it. They obviously haven't. These breaches you're talking about are egregious and over the top, but they're not criminal. If Senator Wyden wants to make them criminal, and apparently he does, you sent me earlier today legislation that he's introducing this week, which would make this type of thing criminal and hold CEOs criminally liable. There's a lot of constitutional...
Why are you pointing to Steve Forbes when you think? Go ahead, Steve.
Because he's a famous rich CEO. I'm not trying to give you heartburn. Obviously, because of the Constitution, you can't make something criminal retroactive, but if he can get the votes in the Senate and the president to go along with it, he can do it looking forward.
Is this like what the government did against railroads in the late 1800s when they said they're euchering the farmers and they brought in the first deep state administrative agency?
Yes.
Nearly wrecked the railroad industry?
Yes.
Is this the same kind of thing?
Yes, this is the same kind of thing. I mean, I have to be a little snarky here. For the government to complain that a private entity is failing to safeguard privacy is the height of ridiculousness. Nobody and nothing hypocrisy violates privacy more than the government. So you're exactly right. This is probably the left personified by Senator Wyden, wanting to get their hands on somebody who, in their opinion, got too rich, too fast, too big, and they don't like something that's bigger and richer than the Congress is.
Is it an advance of civilization that at least he's not proposing to burn them at the stake like they did with witches?
Yes, Steve.
Years ago?
Steve Moore?
Judge, thank you for being here. I don't like Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account, believe it or not. I may be one of the few people in America who doesn't. But what I don't understand about this is why would anyone give their phone number to Facebook? Why would anyone give information they want to be private to Facebook? I mean, in my opinion, this is just people, making a mistake and providing this information to Facebook. And the question I have for you, is this a violation of the contract that Facebook has with their users? Because if it's not, I don't see, how Facebook could be held legally or criminally liable.
You and I might be of the wrong generation. Forgive me for saying that, but there's something so addictive to young people, maybe Christina can tell us in a few minutes, who want to reveal everything to Facebook so that their friends and even strangers can know everything about them. So is your question to me, do you lose the right to privacy in information you give to Facebook? Yes and no.
Well, yeah.
If Facebook confines it to the people for whom you intend it, you do not lose your right to privacy. But if you intend to give your phone number to your 1,500 followers and Facebook exposes it to 150 million people, they have violated their contract with you. It's a civil violation, and you have a cause of action against them. If you could quantify the damages, it is absolutely not criminal.
Well, it's just my only point is I would never give my phone number to anybody. I mean, if I didn't want it to be public information.
Right.
And so, to some extent, people are crying about information they voluntarily handed over to Facebook.
So theoretically, if someone sued Facebook because their phone number got out to 400 million people, the defense would be, what did you think was going to happen to it? You gave it to Facebook. You know what Facebook does. Sort of an assumption of the risk argument.
Okay, so we're focusing on phone numbers, and you had Steve Moore complaining that, you know, he doesn't understand the younger generation. You give it, you do it almost with every, and I'd like to point out that Scott is closer in age than most of you might think.
Yeah, why did you guys leave me out of that, by the way? I mean, come on.
To the point,
I know I have makeup on, but
you're
still.
seeing even airlines. You give away your phone number to airlines to receive notifications. It happens across the board. Most of the people, old or young, don't read the fine print. But the issue here is not just the phone numbers. What about the fact that the facial recognition? Facebook was conducting facial recognition and then storing that information on 60 million people without their consent. So isn't that something too? And to your statement, which I find very interesting, we can't go back in time, but we can go forward. So if Facebook, if there's another data breach in the coming months, if more phone numbers are revealed like you mentioned today, isn't that a case for criminal law and not civil?
Well, that's what Senator Wyden wants it to be. So
and
right
I don't
now,
want to politicize it either.
If Mark Zuckerberg certifies numbers, earnings, to be accurate, and he knows they're inaccurate, he's committed the crime of perjury by putting his signature on them. Senator Wyden wants it to be that if Mark Zuckerberg at one of his meetings in Silicon Valley says such and such a thing doesn't happen, and it does, he wants to make that criminal. He wants to criminalize the type of corporate puffery and language that is typical of corporate executives and members of Congress, Senator Wyden, and he wants to make that a crime. The government's not going to want to prosecute that. The DOJ doesn't want to go there.
But don't you think there's a problem right now? It's constantly happening. We saw it with Google even today going after children on YouTube.
That's
it's constantly happening. I don't think it's necessarily a political thing. Yes, maybe the senator has intentions, but across the board, companies are doing
Let's
that.
hear from that young man in Chicago before we go. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, and I think to Christina's point, guys, you know, these fines, I mean, we have a record fine for Facebook at $5 billion, you know, once upon a day, and the stock rallied. I mean, the fines are falling on deaf ears, and so I'm wondering if this is almost best handled in the boardroom, you know, by the shareholders who eventually would vote out Zuck or Cheryl to put them on a first name or last name basis here, in the sense of the shareholders will eventually take over these companies and realize these executives are bad for the company versus the government doing it.
Well, no, that would depend on how much voting stock, I don't want to get too into the weeds here, Cheryl and Zuck have, but that is certainly
Zuck controls the voting stock.
But that is certainly a free market solution, Scott. The idea of criminalizing speech which is typical of corporate executives for whatever purpose, not under oath, is a very, very dangerous slippery slope down which to go.
You know, one other question. Sarbanes-Oxley is one thing that Senator Wyden pointed to as what we could do for the tech industry. That is, that criminalizes activity if people, board members, misrepresent the financial data that they come out with. However, we had this terrible financial crisis, and we had all of these liar loans that were being packaged.
Talking about the 08.
Correct. All these liar loans that were being packaged by banks. Nobody went to jail for that. So you have a law that is never enforced.
Right. I mean, that is called prosecutorial discretion. I mean, the Bush administration had 4 months to go. President Obama was elected to office 2 months after the 08 crash. He had 8 years in office. A liberal Democrat didn't prosecute any of these people for causing 08. Why? The government had a lot to do with it. Fannie and Freddie.
And Judge, how about the lies, guys, that we heard on health care? The lies that we were told on health care for years and years and years. Nobody ever paid for those.
Yes.
Very good. Very good point.
When Roger Clemens was prosecuted for lying about the contents of his urine to
Sammy
a
Sosa
committee, his lawyer said to the members of Congress, but you guys are allowed to lie when you ask my client questions.
You know, I never thought we'd use that as an endpoint for a segment, but it's happened this time. Judge Andrew Napolitano, great to have you on. Thank you, sir.